Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. When we last talked to Virginia Johnson, she was the newly appointed artistic director of the Dance Theatre of Harlem and was hard at work rebuilding the historic institution that was the first major company to showcase the work of Black classical dancers. Founded by the legendary Arthur Mitchell and Carl Shook in 1969, in the wake of the assassination of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., the company was forced to close in 2004 for financial reasons. But last year, with 18 new dancers culled from an international search, it presented its first New York season in 8 years. Now, as it celebrates its 45th anniversary, the Dance Theatre of Harlem is about to open its second season at the Rose Theatre of Jazz at Lincoln Center. Today, we'll learn how the company is doing, where it's performing, and what new and exciting things we can expect in the months to come. Welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's great to be here.
As I said when you were last on the show in 2010, you were in the process of rebuilding the company that had not performed since 2004. Now you have a company of 18 dancers from around the country, Brazil and Australia.
Absolutely.
How did you find them?
When the company closed in 2004, the idea that the company would be gone for maybe a month, maybe 2 months, it actually ended up being 8 years. By the time we got to 2008, there was a realization that Dance Theatre of Harlem needed to be out in front of the public, and we also needed to take the young people who are part of our school and help them take those next steps in preparation of being professional dancers. So Arthur Mitchell and Levine Naidoo created the Dance Theatre of Harlem Ensemble. And it was a touring company that enabled these young people to get in front of an audience and learn how to give a performance and understand what it was like to be on tour and understand what it was to really be a professional dancer. When I came to the company in 2010, the ensemble was 2 years old. There was a lot of wonderful talent there. We were out doing touring. We were building repertoire. And so from that group of dancers, I saw the nucleus of the new company, partly because they'd worked with Arthur Mitchell, partly because they were young people who were honing their skills and beginning to understand what this institution of Dance Theatre of Harlem was about. So I felt that that was really an important continuity line that we needed to have. So of the 18 dancers, 8 of the dancers came from the ensemble. Then in January of 2012, we did a national audition tour. And we went to San Francisco, we went to Chicago, we went to Miami, we had a big audition in New York, looking for dancers for the Dance Theatre of Harlem company. And you know, Cheryl, one of the things that I saw in that audition was that the 8 years that we had not had a Dance Theatre of Harlem touring the country had been a setback, because the number of dancers of color who came to those auditions was very small. And certainly the number of dancers of color who were of the level that I needed was incredibly small. And that was heartbreaking. As a former member of the company, I remember in the beginning years, all of us who came to the company had been told, no, you can't do this. And it was an amazing thing to have a chance to perform this art form and to grow as an artist, as dance artist in the art form of ballet. 10 years later, because I was with the company as a dancer for a long time, there was a generation of dancers who came in who owned their place in this profession. They knew there was a place for them. They knew that they could do it. Maybe people had been skeptical, but they'd seen the Dance Theatre of Harlem perform, and they knew there was a chance for them. When we closed in 2004, a generation of dancers got shunted off into modern, got shunted off into Broadway, because ballet companies weren't hiring them. So whereas I saw, and I found some amazing dancers through that audition, I also was surprised at the number of dancers who were not ready for this, or the diversity of people who auditioned for the Dance Theatre of Harlem. So it wasn't just people of color who thought they should come to this company. It was anybody, because everybody was looking for a job.
Right, but fewer people who were ready to do ballet, right?
At the level I needed.
Right.
At the level I needed.
Right.
Yeah.
To get into the company, I mean, once you discovered somebody, I mean, is it a lengthy process? I mean, does one audition do it, or are there multiple auditions, or do you come and you intern? Do you know, what's that process like?
The process was pretty short, actually, because we didn't have a lot of time. As I said, we had the auditions in January. We were already booked with performances in October of 2012. So there were dancers that we saw that we thought, oh, this is an interesting dancer. The audition process was actually quite lengthy. There was a class, then we had them do various bits of repertoire. They had to learn, they had to show some classical repertoire. They had to show some neoclassical repertoire. There was a little bit of a moment of improvisation. We had interviews with them. We certainly talked to people who worked with them as young people. So it was very intense, but over a short period of time.
Okay, and then you give them a ticket to Hollywood.
And then we get to take to Hollywood. Yes, absolutely. So it was pretty thrilling back in August of 2012 when we brought together this group of people for the first time.
How would you describe your new company?
Well, they're extraordinarily beautiful in a very unique way. They're individuals. I'm not a person who thinks about a ballet company of having to have 18 people who match. They have to match in their movement, but they have to be strong individuals. They need to bring something to the stage that's very particular. They are strong technicians. This year, for the repertoire, we have some works that really challenge them as actors, and they've had to step up to that. I think the thing that excites me most about this group of dancers is that not only are they very hungry to do this, but they have imagination. They have an idea about what it is to be a dancer in the 21st century, and they bring that to their work.
Did you find many male dancers wanting to be ballet dancers, in particular male dancers of color?
Yes, absolutely. And this is the interesting thing about ballet in America. There were more males who were African Americans who had studied ballet and had an appropriate level of training than there were females. And it's an interesting issue.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I think that for young black women today, the life of a ballerina isn't the glamorous thing that it is when you can be a doctor and a lawyer. Is it as glamorous to be a ballerina? Is it as glamorous to be a ballerina when you don't see yourself reflected in the culture at large? So the number of young people, young females who study ballet age 8, huge number. By the time you get to age 14, 15, 16, you're starting to make different kinds of choices because you're looking for a life. And you don't imagine that you might necessarily have a great life as a ballerina because there's so few.
They're probably all 4 or 5-year-old girls fantasize being either ballerina or an ice skater.
Exactly, exactly.
And then they either age out of it or they pursue it.
Yeah, yeah.
So last year you had your first season. Tell me about your first season.
Wow, that was the first season, not just the first season at Jazz at Lincoln Center, but the first year of touring with the company was pretty amazing. We had our first performance in Louisville, Kentucky, as I say, on October 19th, 2012. It's etched in my mind because it was our first big step forward. I think for all of us, the weight of the legacy of Dance Theatre of Harlem was tremendous. We had a very short period of time to get ourselves up to ultra speed. And there was a lot of commitment to make that happen. The growth of the company as it went through those first months and those first performances was tremendous because you know that people have an expectation. It was hair-raising for me, but it was a very wonderful experience. Our first season here at Jazz at Lincoln Center was the new company in a new theater. Expectations were high. I think the dancers did tremendously. I think it was a welcome that we didn't expect, that we got from our audiences and from the critics, that people were happy to see us back, and people want to see us succeed.
I understand that there are your performances, your New York performances include 3 New York premieres, each of them highlighting a portion of the history of African Americans.
Actually, one of the works highlights the history of African Americans,
okay.
And that's part of the program that I've created for Dance Theatre of Harlem, as we have a new company and we're talking about ballet in the 21st century, because I think it's really important for us to use this art form, to use this language of ballet, to talk about more things than frogs and princesses. That we really want this art form to be relevant, and we want it to speak to many different people. So last year we had a tremendous work by John Elaine called Far But Close. And it was a unique work because it was, it dealt with two young people who meet on the subway and find a way to understand each other. And the unique thing about Far But Close was that it was told through spoken word. So it was a way of really bringing African-American culture into this world of ballet.
So it was dance to spoken word?
It was dance to spoken word.
Okay.
It's a fantastic work, and it's a work that catches people off guard on tour. It has been wonderful because my job now, of course, is not to be on the stage, but to sit in the audience and watch what's happening on stage and feel what's happening in the audience. The experience of sitting through something completely unexpected, but also telling a very resonant story, has been quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
This year we have a work by Thaddeus Davis and Tanya Weidman Davis, two former Dance Theatre of Harlem choreographers, company members, who've created a work called Past Carry Forward. And it is not only about the Great Migration, but it is about how the Great Migration persists today. It's a very, very interesting work, and it continues that idea. Why do you go to the ballet? I think it should be a meaningful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so these works are about doing that.
And what are some of the cities you're going to on your season?
So this season we've had a pretty amazing season so far. We've started off Eugene, Oregon, and Berkeley, California. We've been in Honduras. We've just come back from Midland, Texas, and Salt Lake City and Denver. We go from here to the Virginia Arts Festival in Norfolk. We will be touring to the Jacobs Pillow Festival in Beckett, Massachusetts this summer. So it is a very varied, we'll be in Innsbruck. It's
Austria,
international
right.
touring as well as national touring.
Okay. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more with Virginia Johnson, Artistic Director of the Dance Theatre of Harlem, after the following message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Virginia Johnson, Artistic Director of the Dance Theatre of Harlem. Before the break, we were talking about the season that you're in the middle of now. Do you have your favorites among the dances that are being performed this season?
I don't have favorites. I'm really excited about the repertoire. You know, we are a new company and we're building a repertoire year by year.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we have 14 works, and every year I've got to figure out what's the balance of the work that we bring in. This year we have 3 new works, as you said. It's important for me that we do a classical work, that we do a work that draws on African American heritage, and we do a work that's really about contemporary ballet,
Mm-hmm.
ballet in the 21st century. And so this year we're doing a really wonderful classical work that was taught to us, to me, actually as a dancer, by Frederick Franklin. It's called Pas de Dix. The original choreography is by Marius Petipa, but we're doing a new production of it that really takes away all the fanciness and furbelows and asks us to just look at the beauty of the movement, the way that movement interacts with the music. So it's a stripped down, very clean and clear version of Pas de Dix. Classical dancing is very beautiful. It is, there's a purity to it, there's a simplicity to it that I think is important for our dancers to experience, but also for people to understand when you come to see a performance of Dance Theatre of Harlem, there are many different flavors of this art form. So I'm very excited about this Pas de Dix. We talked a little bit about Past Carry Forward. The other work that's new to the program this year is Dancing on the Front Porch of Heaven, and that was choreographed by Ulysses Dove. It actually was choreographed in 1993, but it is a very starkly modern work. Ulysses Dove was a tremendous choreographer who created many modern dance works, but this ballet was created for the Royal Swedish Ballet. It's on point. The subject matter is, the subtext is called Odes to Love and Loss, and it's about mourning, and it's about where you find yourself at a place of loss and how you find the solution, how you find survival. It's quite a beautiful work. It's quite a difficult work. It's a great challenge for the dancers, but through it you experience a release, and I think it's very, very wonderful to see.
Do you find when you're in the process of fundraising, and I'm sure that's a big part of the job, do you get people saying, "Well, we've already got Alvin Ailey. So why should I, give money to another black dance company? Do you ever get that?
You know, I think that idea may be out there. I don't really understand that idea at all. Alvin Ailey is a tremendously important company and a beautiful, beautiful company in the world. We are 100% different from Alvin Ailey. We are a ballet company. I like to describe it this way. You know, Ailey is about going into the ground and making sure that you're connected and that you have this sense of earthedness. Ballet is about the elevation of the spirit. It's about moving away from the ground. These are both human impulses. They don't belong to black people or white people. You don't need to put yourself in a place where you're supporting a black company. You're supporting an art form that expresses something that is resonant to you. So yes, unfortunately, we do hear that. But our job is to wake people up to that fallacy and get them to understand what the work really is.
Now, your season starts in August and runs roughly, what, until the following June?
Yes,
So
typically it does.
that's almost the whole year. That's pretty much
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
So in July, do your dancers take the month off, or do they go and dance other places, or a combination of things?
Combination of the two.
Okay.
It's really hard work, this ballet business. So it's nice to take a break, but when you take a long break, then it takes that much longer to get back in shape. So some dancers choose not to. The dancers are on contract with us for 30 weeks. So within the August to June period, there are layoff periods in between.
And New York is an expensive place to live, obviously. Do you have apartments for your dancers, or do they find their own housing? How do they handle that?
They find their own housing. And it is definitely a struggle, you know, and I certainly wish that I could pay the dancers more so that life could be a little bit easier. We are a new company. We're starting off again. We are very bare bones at this point. We've got to prove to our giving community that we can not stumble again. So we're very cautious about how we are planning our budget and making sure that we are able to do what we do. Money in has got to equal money out. It can't be the other way around. Tremendous fundraising, tremendous fundraising. Quite a bit of touring. We've been very lucky. Last year, people signed up for Dance Theatre of Harlem, a company that had not existed before. So there's a lot of belief in what we're doing, but you know, it is not an easy path.
You told me earlier that your dancers have today off, and
Yes.
presumably you do too. But what's a typical workday like for a dancer in the company?
So we have a class in the morning at 10 o'clock. Many of the dancers, the majority of the dancers, will get to the theater, get to the studio 9:15, 9 o'clock, 9:30. A couple of them get there at 9:55, but a lot of them get there, do pre-warm-up exercises to get their body ready to go. Class goes from 10 to 11:30. They have these weeks a 5-minute break, and then we go into rehearsal period. We work from 11:30, 11:35 to 6:30, just rehearsing, and then they have the evening off. When we go into the theater, we have class at 11. We have a technical rehearsal at 1:15. We have 3 hours of rehearsal. They have a break. We have a warm-up. They do a performance from 7:30 to 9:30, 7:30 to 10, and the whole thing starts all over again.
It's a long day.
It is a long day, but you know, and it's a grueling day, but you're doing something that you believe in. You're doing something that you love, and you're doing something that, you know, when I wasn't a dancer and I went out into the wide world thinking that I wanted to be in the world with other folks, I found out that dancers actually like to work very hard. They want a challenge. They want to be pushed. They want to have that. And there's a certain grit to dancers that's very important. So you don't want to be in a place where you're not asked to do your most.
Now, you were saying you have a 30-week.
Yes.
They sign a 30-week contract, and sometimes in the time that they're not on contract, they would do other kinds of dances. Do dancers ever have to do other kinds of non-dance work to supplement their incomes?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. I'm really thinking that our company members are able to supplement their work with other dance work. We have a wonderful professional training program at Dance Theatre of Harlem for dancers who have graduated high school and are on the cusp of their career, and they need that finishing school. So these are dancers who are 18 to 24. They study all day long at DTH, and some of them work in retail, some of them work in restaurants, some of them walk dogs. You know, it is a very expensive city to live in. And so, and professional training students are not on stipend. So it's very difficult for them to.
So they're paying for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there more opportunities for Black ballet dancers these days?
Yes. And Cheryl, I'd like to say that in the next 5 years, we will see a big change. We have been talking, everyone has been talking, well, Dance Theatre of Harlem is 45 years old, talking about why are there not more blacks in ballet. But you know, the conversation is actually accelerated, and the bigger companies are starting to create programs in which they're trying to start the pipeline and fill it up earlier. Because the reality is, if you're going to be a dancer, you're one in maybe 500. It doesn't matter what color skin it is. It is such a rigorous and difficult art form. So when you see a classroom full of 38-year-olds, out of that, maybe one of them will make it through the long process, 10 years of training to get ready to that place. So we need a lot of support, in other words, to create a pipeline of young people who are able to have the talent and they have the skills and they have the support, financial but emotional, to withstand somebody telling you day after day, no, that's not good enough. Because that's what happens when you're a ballet dancer, and that's how you get better.
Right. So we're talking about the pipeline, developing a pipeline. So tell us about your educational programs. You have your school that is open to
all.
Starting at age 3?
Starting at age 3. And we actually have a wonderful program. It's one of my favorite things to take a peek at, called Mommy and Me, which is toddlers and their caregivers. So starting at age 3, they come into pre-ballet and they learn coordination and they learn how to start working with rhythm and working to music. And they go on up through the school. We have a cabriole program which is made up of students who are who have talent and have interest and focus, and they come at least 3 times a week. By the time they're at level 6 in cabriole program, they're coming 6 times a week.
What's it called again?
Cabriole.
Okay.
Cabriole is a fancy step in ballet where you jump in the air and you beat your legs and you come down.
Okay.
But we also have a program called jeté, that's another ballet term, which is much more simple, where you just jump in the air and close your legs. And there are a large number of students in that class who are just there because they like to dance. You know, there are students who go from jeté to cabriole and vice versa, depending where they are in their lives. The school is a very important part of Dance Theatre of Harlem. Because
and the school is located?
The school is located at 466 West 152nd Street between Amsterdam and St. Nicholas. It's in the Sugar Hill district of Harlem. And we've been there since 1972. And it's a fantastic home to have. But it's about creating the future. And it's an important part of what we do.
Now you have something, professional dance training for the ones who are really considering it seriously, and that's a 3-year?
Yes.
A 3-year program?
Certificate granting program, the professional training program.
Okay. And you have something called summer intensives, which I gather a number of companies have.
Yes, we have a summer intensive. We actually have 3 summer intensives. We have 2 sessions here in New York, and 1 session that's a brand new session that's taking place in Washington, D.C. And we have a national audition tour for our summer intensive programs, where we go and find students from across the country who are interested in coming to Dance Theatre of Harlem. And it's been a very wonderful experience for us and for them as well, because for so many of these young dancers of color, they're coming from schools where they're the only one. And they are in love with it, but it's always hard to be the only one. So they come to the summer at Dance Theatre of Harlem, and they're surrounded by a group of people who are just like them in all ways.
Right.
And get a chance to really work on their skills and really develop who they are as artists and as people.
What are your goals for the immediate future? I think we have about a minute left.
Well, my goal for the immediate future is to fill those houses at the Frederick P. Rose Theater at Jazz at Lincoln Center, because I think we have something for people to see. I think Dance Theatre of Harlem is a very important company in the world today, not just because we're a ballet company, but because we want this art form to be relevant and immediate. And I think we have a very special way of bringing that to a public. I really believe in the arts as an important part of a good life. So many of us think of it as being just fluff, something that you do when there's a couple of extra dollars. It's nourishment for the spirit, and I want people to understand that.
Okay, well, I'm sure you're going to be offering a lot of nourishment in your season. I want to thank Virginia Johnson for joining me today. If you'd like to learn more about the Dance Theatre of Harlem, you can log onto their website at dancetheatreofharlem.org. For the City University of New York and One to One, I'm Sheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.